In this tutorial, you will learn how to make a modulation histogram of the voice performance of two speakers and how to interpret it. The software tool used is Excel. Before you start, you have to install the analysis tool pack. If you have problems finding it, use your help function and write analysis tool pack. If you have an older version of Excel, you might need to install Stat plus Mac LE or other programs. The tutorial here is done on a Mac version, and if you work on a PC, it might differ a bit. Once you have added the features needed in Excel, you can begin. We are continuing working with the voice example from the last two tutorials. I showed you in the last tutorial how to extract the F0 values of the speaker and how to verify the values in Excel. As you remember, there was a male and a female speaker. Now you might say it is impossible to compare male and female voices because they are operating in different ranges. Furthermore, one might add, the extract with the female voice only lasts 13 seconds, the male lasts for much longer, and it's right. We are challenged from a statistical point of view. The histogram we are going to create is making it visually possible to compare what you hear with what you see and compare different voices. So we start by clicking on the data, and then we want to do data analysis over here. And we want to make a histogram, and we choose the input range, and that will be the A values and the bends. And the bends here are in semitones, and this is done in order to make it easier to understand what you hear with what you see. Of course, we are not talking in semitones but in intervals. So the 100, it's the 100 and the 106 and the 112, it's the center frequency. But it gives an image of how the voice modulates that is very useful in this case. And we want to have the output here in the sheet today, so we choose an area and we click OK. Now if you are working on a PC, it might also add the percentage, because our challenge here is that it has counted the number of frequencies in those areas. So we start by wanting to have the sum of it all. We multiply it. And now we know we have 899 units in this area. And for the male speaker, this is a female speaker, it is much more. So we need to calculate this in percent. So what we do is that we click here, and then we add this, and we take this area and divide it with the total and multiply with 100. And we continue doing that. And enter. Now we want to check if it gives 100. So we make auto sum again, and we click the area that we want to have add on here, and it gives 100. It's just perfect. We want to move this, Command X, Command V, and we delete this column. So we have those areas just beside each other. Then we select them and we choose this chart. Now we want to change how it looks a bit, so it becomes a histogram. And we want to change this axis, otherwise we can't compare it with the other one, the other histogram that we're going to do. So we are choosing a maximum on 30%, and it changes everything down here. We want intervals of 5. Then we add a title. Female speaker. If we had a name or a year, we would add that too. And we want to add etiquettes too. The frequency band, it's in semitones and in hertz. We also want to add a label here, F0, frequency, percent of total. Now we are actually ready to compare it. If you want to add this in something you have written, you have to save it as an image. Otherwise, all the changes that will be done in Excel will influence your diagram in your text. So remember to save it as an image. Now we want to compare it with the male speaker, and as you can see, there are some differences. Although we might say that it would have been nice to have the scale a bit further down for the male, it would have given a better image, we can say that he's going quite low, that he has a tendency of being in this area, while the female, she is much more regular in her way of modulating. We have to remember here that she is posing questions, and that might be why this area is quite high compared to this area. The male is telling a story and he's modulating very fine. If he had had a more regular distribution with no high peaks, we would have said it would be a very natural way of speaking. If he had a more stiff curve going in this direction with a lot down here, then we would say that he would be very often ending his phrases by going down. And that would be a mark of power somehow, or something else that you can discuss and connotate to actually to this visualization. So this method allows you to compare a lot of different voices, but what you have to remember is the role of the speaker because that affects the way the voice is used. An interviewer and the interviewed is using and modulating their voice in very different ways. Now I will encourage you to use some of the links below and to find some voice file yourself and try to do the analysis.